So today we're going to talk about the drummers that made me a drummer. There's 3 of them. Coming up. So I am 52 years old. I've been a drummer for 37 years. I started when I was 15 years old. But this all started when I was a little kid. My oldest brother, Jay, who's 9 years older than I am, born in 1963. I was born in 1972. He was a product of a kid growing up in the 70s. And when I was 3-4 years old, I started really listening to the records that he was bringing home, and he was playing these records for me. You know, Black Sabbath and Pink Floyd and AC/DC, all these bands. And I just really started to gravitate towards it. And Kiss, I remember Kiss. I remember looking at those album covers forever with all the makeup and the costumes and the fire and the stage setup and everything. And I was just blown away. He'd put a Kiss record on in the living room on the record player, and I would come running in with a tennis racket and just pretend I was Ace Frehley, with a tennis racket, just pretending to be a guitar player. When I was 4 years old, I actually dressed up as Gene Simmons for Halloween, and my mom probably she was probably about to have a heart attack, but it is what it is. So fast forward a few years, 1978, I was 6 years old, and my brother Jay brought home the first Van Halen record. And I remember distinctly, I can see it vividly. He put that on the record player, dropped the needle, and started listening to the record. And we were just like, oh my gosh, what is this? Who are these guys? First song ended, and we were like, that was amazing. Then all of a sudden, Eruption hits. And we were like, what in the fuck is this? And who are these guys? Never heard anything like it ever before, and still have not since. That was a long ass time ago, and everybody had the same reaction, probably at the same exact time. I listened to that record front to back, nonstop, for months. I would take it to school with me. Our music teacher at the time at my elementary school, Mrs. Harris, she would let us bring music in, and we could play one song. And I remember I took that album in, and I played Atomic Punk, and she about had a fucking heart attack. And she didn't like me anyway, and that was just like, it just was in the process of the slow drive of the nail in that coffin between me and her. But I love that record. And Eddie Van Halen, listening to his playing on that, I was so blown away. I wanted to be a guitar player so bad because of him. And listen to that whole thing just nonstop. The whole, that whole first year. Back then, bands were releasing records like once a year. Most of them were anyway. So Van Halen 2 was coming out. Same thing. He brings it home, puts it on the record player, drops it down, and again, just mesmerized. And the first thing I'm listening to is Eddie Van Halen. And his guitar work on that record is just unbelievable. I mean, his tone, everything about it. But as we're listening to it, as I kind of started wearing that record completely out, I really started to take notice to the drums. And at that point, still wanting to be a full-blown guitar player, I really started listening to what Alex was doing because it really caught my ear. He kind of came out of the woodwork a little bit more on Van Halen 2. Van Halen 2 was a little bit heavier on most of the songs, and but I was so hooked by them. And but he really started to stand out. There was a couple songs in particular that I still gravitate to on that record. I'm going to play a couple little clips here. This is Out of Love Again. Just what he does everywhere in this part. It's just amazing. I mean, he's all over the place. He's not following what the guitar's playing at all. Just incredible stuff what he's playing. I mean, really, really good stuff. Now, the of course, the solos. You know, everyone listens to the solos, and they're kind of like, okay, well, yeah, it's an Eddie Van Halen solo. It's amazing. You know, so Eddie Van Halen's out here doing his solo, and then everyone else is way back here, just kind of filling in, you know, the gray area in the background. But no, I mean, not on this. On this song specifically, Eddie Van Halen goes into a solo, and the stuff that Alex is playing behind him is fucking incredible. Listen to this. Once again. I mean, come on. Unbelievable stuff on that record. Another song that just still blows me away is Lighting Up the Sky. I mean, it's just so heavy. He's just chugging along. Him and Eddie are just locked in. But some of the stuff he does in this, the accents that he does, very kind of unorthodox, especially for 1979. But listen to this fill. He ends with this flam. Right here. Ooh. God. Is that one more time? Oh, God. Oh, blows me away. The end part of this song, it kind of goes into this little, like, lower tempo thing, and then comes out with this ripping guitar solo, which is just incredible. At the end of that, there's like a little mini drum solo, and I remember hearing this for the first time, and I was just like, oh my God, like that is incredible. Listen to this. Ooh, mama, see the firelights. Ooh, we're coming out tonight. The dynamics in it. Ooh, mama, see the firelights. Here he comes. Comes Eddie. This dive bomb. Listen to this part. Listen to Alex. Unbelievable. Fucking unbelievable record. There's so many other songs on there. I mean, I could spend an hour just on that one record. But yeah, I mean, he really came to the forefront for me, and I really took notice of the drums. I still wanted to be a guitar player at that point, but I was just like, God, like that dude, you know what? He is a phenomenal drummer. Women and Children first came out, and that record, to me, I think is kind of their most underrated record. It's like this heavy, kind of dirty, bluesy rock, you know, like they kind of put some of the virtuosity in the background. I mean, there's definitely some, you know, it's a Van Halen record, so it's going to be there, but they kind of played a little bit more in a pocket and kind of got into a groove on that record. But the one song on there that I think this song single-handedly made me want to be a drummer was In a Simple Rhyme. It's got everything that you want. He's got this little shuffle beat that he does at the beginning. It's like this. Boom, da ga da ga ga ba 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 boom. Right here. that is.
life was a time disgrace. Needed someone to love and hold me. That's one of the reasons that I was out of place.
So this whole part, most of the fills, most of the stuff that he plays, the patterns, it's all 16th notes. Now this part coming up, I could not figure out right here.
And I almost died, but I was young and I was far from lonely. I've been that way for a long, long year. Needed a girl to call my one and only. Is that you?
So that whole part between the ride and the snare, all he's doing is 16th notes. And I did a drum cover of this song, which I will link somewhere in this. I did it pretty recently. But I could not figure out, I knew in my head what he was playing. And I could internalize what he was playing. But actually physically sitting down to do it, I had to really think about what he was doing and what the pattern was. And once you figure it out that it's all just 16th notes, and he's just alternating between the ride and the snare, it just flowed immediately. But it's genius. I mean, it's really... He just kind of, I don't know. I never would have come up with anything like that, ever. Now, that song in its entirety is, like I said, it's one of my favorite Van Halen songs. Once the song's over, it goes to this nice, sweet, quiet end, and you're like, oh, the record's over. And then they hit it with this to end the whole record. Unbelievable. So I guess they were supposed to start Fair Warning with that same ending, but as the intro of the record. But it didn't happen for whatever reason. I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I thought that would have been cool if they ended one record with that and then started the next record with it as just kind of a continuation. So, I mean, of course, there's some amazing stuff on Fair Warning. That's such a great heavy record. Diver Down kind of lost me a little bit with all the covers. I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was kind of it just seemed kind of like filler. But when 1984 came out, there's actually a lot of songs on 1984 are my favorite Van Halen songs. I can't say collectively it's my favorite Van Halen record because there's some definite songs on there that I just do not care for. Jump is one of them. So that was the lead-off single on that record. And I was just like, what? I'll Wait, I think, came up next. And that I didn't really care for that song. I just kind of burp, 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 burp. The two keyboard songs. And I'm not a huge fan of the keyboard. If it fits, that's great. I don't think they don't fit in those songs. I just don't particularly care for them. But I was so uninspired by Jump and almost let down. Almost like after Injustice for All and the Black Album comes out, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Anyway, I thought the lyrics just kind of might as well jump. I know what it's about, but I mean, when you're a kid and you're hearing that and it's just like, okay, really? It just did not resonate with me. Of course, there's a blistering guitar solo in the song. And, that's the one takeaway, for that song for me when I was a kid. I was like, well, at least it's got a great guitar solo. I could fast forward to that part listening to the guitar solo. But as I listened to the guitar solo, and at that point, like I said, I had already wanted to become a drummer because of the previous records. I heard for the first time, it was almost like someone flipped a light switch. I heard what Alex was playing behind the guitar solo. I was like, wait a minute. What? And I almost wore the tape out, rewinding it to listen to what the fuck he was playing. Listen to this. I mean, they're on the same path, taking a nice stroll, and they go completely off on these two different directions and these two different paths, and they come right back because they're not playing the same thing during this solo. They're playing something completely different, but they come back and they land right back in the same exact spot together. But that's what they always did. I mean, that's the brother thing, I guess. But the one song to me that is the Van Halen song. It's my favorite Van Halen song. I love all of them. I've been listening to them since 1978 when Van Halen 1 came out. But the song that is absolutely my favorite Van Halen song, ready for it, is Girl Gone Bad off of that record. That song, I mean, it has, to me, it has everything that Van Halen was with David Lee Roth. Everything in one song. They all just pushed it to 11 in that song. I'm not talking volume wise. They pushed all their talents. I mean, the vocal melody and the phrasing and where his screams are and the placement of everything was just perfect. It had so much feel to it. The guitar parts are just incredible. I mean, the drums, of course, are just all the stuff that he does. He plays like so many different things in that song. And then Michael Anthony. People say he's a crappy bass player. I'm sorry. Listen to Girl Gone Bad. I mean, the dude's all fucking over the place. And his vocals, my gosh, his backing vocals are like made for that song. So I'm going to try not to play this whole thing. But it's incredible. I did a cover of this one also a while ago. I was thinking about redoing it because I didn't record with mics. I did it a different way, the cheap way. But this build up, man. He's just dancing over it. Eddie's just dancing over everything. He's like floating around whatever else is doing. Right here. God. Ooh, right here. So fucking good. It's such an amazing song. I mean, I don't even know where else to go in this. I mean, I'm afraid I'm going to play the whole freaking thing. Oh, that's a good part. The solo and what Alex does in the solo again. I mean, come on. So good. And I mean, I can't really, I just can't explain what this song does to me. Listen to David. Michael Anthony, right here. Right here, Michael Anthony. Ah! So badass. Right here. It's like he falls off a cliff or something. I mean, such a severely underrated drummer in rock and a drummer in general. I mean, he really is. I mean, if you live behind the shadow of Eddie Van Halen your entire life and your entire career, I get that to a point, but God, he's just fucking incredible. He's such an amazing drummer. Nobody plays like him. Nobody plays like Alex Van Halen. And no one has the versatility like Alex Van Halen. I mean, there's people that can play all kinds of stuff, and, you know, there's videos out of all these dudes like Mike Portnoy and all these guys playing his kit for some modern drummer thing. Greg Bissonette, and he was in the David Lee Roth band. He played right after Alex. I mean, he like learned all those songs, and all these guys. I think Ray Lazier was in this video too. I mean, they came close, but they did not have the feel. Like, you cannot match his feel. You just cannot. So his sound, his drum sound was just, his snare drum sound is so signature. It's got that pop. And I've just always loved that kind of a snare drum sound, that fat, thick pop. You know, he would just crank that thing and he'd tape the bottom of the head, you know, underneath the head on the batter's side to get that sound. I don't do that, but I mean, just phenomenal stuff. And, you know, understandably why he is the one that made me a drummer. I mean, I can't, there's no denying that. And I will wear that on my sleeve till the day I die, that Alex Van Halen is the one who made me a drummer. All right, there's 2 more coming up, so stay tuned. See ya.